It's hard to say what this podcast has actually become, but it's always going to be the Leal Legacy. Yep. Yeah. I'm up. I'm up. It is 1:15 dark. And I'm just working on stuff. And I don't know. Popped a couple Altoids. And here we are. I recorded an episode last night. I think it's just going to happen. It's just going to happen when it happens. And it might happen rapid fire. Yeah, just working on stuff. And I figured, why not? Why not? I'm dabbling in the world of my AI music, Leal Legacy music. I'm still, I don't know, man. I have fun doing this. You know, I'm actually simultaneously posting the latest episode prior to this one while I'm dabbling. I'm multitasking. It's a factory that has zero relevance. It has zero relevance to anything, the factory comment, other than that's the song I'm kind of like playing with on the side. Now all the songs, I do a lot of these like AI songs because I'm not musically gifted when it comes to like being a musician. I can't play anything. I can't sing. Yeah. I mean, I could rock it as like a hardcore vocalist. Like I could scream pretty well, or I used to. That was like the thing back in my high school band. But that's not what I do. I don't know what I do. I just do, you know? I just do the do. Actually, I don't do the do. I don't like Mountain Dew. It's disgusting. So anyhow, a lot of these songs that I just kind of do will never make it to some sort of like collection. It'll never be an album that I post anywhere. You know, I put the Counter Kingdom album up everywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, and all those places. But that was like an intentional project, you know? There are some bangers that just are there. I come up with a weird idea. I'm in a weird mood. I hybridize my weird mood with my weird idea, and I dabble. I play. I experiment. And they're too good to waste. You know what I mean? And the I don't know, is it a software? I guess it's a software. I don't know. What the thing I use to concoct these AI songs is getting better and better and better. And I was just like, there's a remix option. So I went back to like some of the earlier songs I did. And it's so weird to say I did, because I didn't really, I mean, I did the idea, I did the lyrics, I did the genre, you know, the song structure. I did all the parts of making a song minus the performance of it, because again, I'm not musically gifted. But anyhow, they're too good to waste. They're too good to create, produce, dare I say, which again, I have a musician friend who said what I'm doing is essentially producing, and I trust this friend because in my mind they're a musical wonder. So I take what they have to say to heart, and I'm gonna keep rolling with it. So I figured why not, when I have these miscellaneous bangers, this miscellaneous music, why not podcasterize it? You know what I mean? And if it gets a good reception, if people like the song on its own, then I can make it available as its own thing. You know what I mean? I could put it on the YouTube and Spotify and wherever else. You know what I mean? This song, the idea stemmed from, I was watching Frankenstein and my AC just kicked on. So if you hear that hum, is it a hum? In the last episode, I touched it on this too. It's not really a hum. It's kind of more of a whoosh. But anyhow, the idea came to me when I was watching Frankenstein, the OG Frankenstein from 1931. Let's find out. I'm actually on my computer this time so I can look things up. Let's do it. Frankenstein movie. I should probably put movie. Actually, I'll just put 1931. Man, I'm good at this. With Boris Karloff. Boris Karloff. I know how to say his name, okay? I just wanted to be weird about it. Boris Karloff was Frankenstein's monster. Colin Clive, Clive, C-L-I-V-E. You tell me how that's pronounced. I'm going to say Clive. He was Henry Frankenstein, Doctor Frankenstein. But anyhow, this came to me when I was watching Frankenstein. And then my mind started wandering. It started wandering down a path of, what happened if that was successful? You know what I mean? What happened? What would have happened if Frankenstein's endeavor turned out to be successful? Like, it didn't become a horror. You know what I mean? A horror. Why is that so hard to say? For me, at least. Because I want to say it, but there's another word that is utilized for, you know, we'll just say ladies of the night. And it's so dangerously close to that word when I say it. Horror, not horror. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. What if it didn't become a horror? What if Dr. Frankenstein's endeavor turned out to work, you know? He reanimated a creature comprised of body parts sourced from corpses. And like, what if that turned out to be like, hey, this turned out really well. Like, this has some serious utilization. Like, this is going to benefit humanity. Reanimating the dead has made the world a better place. You know, instead of like AI robots that are becoming a thing in our reality, what if they weren't artificially what if these physical AI assistants weren't comprised of I guess it's not really artificial, but like synthetic, there we go, that's the word I want. What if they weren't comprised of synthetic pieces? What if they were biological pieces? Like if you needed help around the house, or if you needed some like extra hands for labor, you were just like, man, it'd be really helpful to hire someone, but I don't want to hire someone. I just want to buy something. And that gets really close to slavery. I understand that. As I was saying it, I put it together, and I was like, that is really, really dangerously close to say slavery. But they're dead. You know what I mean? It's a person comprised of corpse parts. So then then there's a whole thing of like sentience, and then what is a soul, and there's a whole bunch of things that you really it gets muddy, you know, it gets sketchy. But for argument's sake, I mean, is there a time where robot rights are going to come into play? Probably. Everything these days is about rights, and you know, it's and reasonably so, to a degree, you know. All living things should have inherent rights, right? But what if that living thing is only living because of craftsmanship? So Frankenstein's monster wasn't like brain dead. Even in the Boris Karloff version, it wasn't a brain dead creature. It had like its own thoughts and intentions, kind of. Like in the Mary Shelley book, the monster was actually highly intelligent and very philosophical. But in the Universal Studios adaptation in 1931, that monster was more of like, kind of like a toddler to a extent, for a good period of time. In the first movie it was, and then in the second movie, Bride of Frankenstein, which will always be one of my all-time favorite movies, the monster in that movie became much more intentional and thoughtful, but not thoughtful but kind of thoughtful. It was kind of thoughtful in the end. When he was like tearing up because his mate only saw him as a hideous creature that wanted nothing to do with him, that was actually terrified of him, and she would only shriek whenever she saw him. When he was tearing, he was crying at the end, and he was flipping the switch to, you know, blow up the laboratory, and he went, "We belong dead. We belong dead." That is like, man. Powerful line. Such a good movie. Man, Bride of Frankenstein was awesome. But anyhow, okay, back to the point. Say it worked out. Say Doctor Frankenstein was able to create a being comprised of corpse components. Corpse components is a brutal metal band. What up? We're corpse components. Somebody use that, but give me credit, please. It's not, back to my AI music producership. I can think of awesome band names too. I just can't be in a band because I'm not good at music. But I would be in a band called Corpse Components. Corpse Components would open for Cannibal Corpse. That's who they would play with. Oh man, nobody makes me laugh like me. Yeah, so Corpse Components. What was I saying? Yeah, so he made a being crafted from corpse components, and you really got to come down to the brain, like the consciousness, the self-awareness, the intent, there's cognition is something that's just like it's a great mystery, honestly, because if you did reanimate, and he wasn't, and Frankenstein's monster wasn't like a reanimated person, it was an amalgamation of multiple people. It was pieces of multiple people. So it wasn't an individual. It was individuals put together to be an individual. You know? So what does that mean? So with all that to be said, the brain, okay, you have like an arm from this guy, an arm from that guy, a leg from a different guy, and another leg from another guy, a torso from some other dude, you know, it's just a head from someone else, and then the brain. So you have all these components put together from multiple people, and then but then what's created isn't any of those people. It's a piece of all of those people, but it isn't solely one person. It's a whole new thing. But then the brain is one of those things where it's like, does the brain being put, excuse me, again, I kind of burp. Why do I always burp? Excuse me. That was rude and vile, and I apologize. But I digress. What would the brain maintain the memories from its prior life? Or are all the memories attached to consciousness? You know what I mean? Like if you took my brain and put it into someone else, would that someone else become me because they have my brain? But they wouldn't be me, obviously, because the rest of the body is not me. But the brain, what does the brain hold? Is a brain merely like a motherboard? I was going to say an engine, but an engine is really more like the heart, because the heart pumps the fluids required to make the thing run. But without the brain, the heart can't function. So what mechanical piece is the brain most related to? And then again, is the brain simply meant to inspire power? Like, is the brain's sole function to be like, move the arm, bend the finger, speak, breathe, you know? So that's interesting. Is one's personality, is what intrinsically makes a person who they are housed in the brain, or is that an argument of the soul and consciousness, you know? What is a person? Is a person their memories and experiences, or is the person the consciousness that is capable of self-awareness and thought, but then thought and brain? So there's a whole thing there. But for argument's sake, just roll with me on this. There's a very much deeper debate here that we could get into, but it's 1:35 dark, and I'm gonna fade out at some point here, But for argument's sake here, let's just say the brain is nothing but a piece of the puzzle, just the thing that ensures that everything else is capable of functioning, because the heart can't beat without the brain. The lungs can't do lung things without the brain. Breathe. Lung things. That is a fun way to say breathe. Yeah. So in this hypothetical, the brain is not the source of personality. Well, it's not. It doesn't maintain the personality or the consciousness or the memories of the person who it belonged to. Once somebody dies, all of those things that make a person who they are goes into wherever it goes. The soul is not tied to the brain. Okay? That's how this is how, and the only way that Frankenstein manufactured people can operate. Right? I mean, and just having like a synthetic humanoid AI assistant, having it be synthetic is just like, there's so much, I don't know, man. There's just the benefits there, because it would never have to use the bathroom. It wouldn't have to eat, but then you still have to charge it. It still needs a power source to run. So your electric bill is going to take a hit. And then there is maintenance, like, if you wanted a biological assistant, like a Frankenstein's monster, it's going to have to shower, it's going to have to use the bathroom, it's going to have to like brush its teeth and all the things we have to do to maintain ourselves hygiene wise. You'll have to do that with your Frankenstein's monster. But there is an equivalent to a synthetic assistant. Robot, you're gonna have to, there's like, I'm sure you're gonna have to change the oil like you do with a car. Maybe, because maybe not. Battery powered things don't really do they? I don't know, I'm not an engineer. Is that what an engineer would do? But anyhow, okay, back to the point. If it worked, okay, there's going to have to be mass production. So everybody can buy and have their own biological assistant. We're going to run out of places to put cemeteries, is what it really comes down to. So instead of filling the earth with bodies, there's, there's something seriously wrong with me. The earth is going to run out of space for cemeteries. So, and everyone loves recycling, right? Recycling is like, is just, so we're no longer burying the dead. Bodies are donated, and the working parts are harvested to create laborers and some whatever kind of assistant you need. One can be crafted using the Frankenstein method, because the Frankenstein method turned out to be a success. The Doctor Frankenstein, in his reanimation attempt, was able to successfully create a super strong, durable, and efficient helper. So now, because it was a success, you can't just make one. Like, you got to monetize this. We live in a capitalist society. Like, you gotta get your bang. You gotta get your money's worth. You got to get the bang for your buck here. Wait, you gotta get the buck for your bang, because the bang for your buck is you buying something that has equal value, if not more value, to what you paid for it. That's getting your bang for your buck. So he needs to get he needs to get the buck for his bang. The bang being the successful reanimation of the dead. So you're gonna have to mass produce these things. And there's no shortage of bodies. People die every day. Tragically. It's a sad thing. But, no, and we're not gonna lab grow. That's just silly. That's just But even if you did lab grow, I guess you could just lab grow an entire human, so the whole stitching together and piecing together parts wouldn't be necessary. But then let's just argue that you grow the parts individually. Maybe they're more effective if it is lab grown. Okay, maybe we're straying away from the corpse thing. Maybe the corpse thing had to happen because it was like of his time. He was limited by the technology of his time, so he had to use corpses. But you know what? In the future, we can lab grow. But you can only lab grow parts, because if you try to lab grow a full person, a full body, things can get squirrely. You know what I mean? Like, you'd rather mess up a hand on its own than spend the time to make a full body and have the left foot be wonky. Then you would just have to replace the foot, and then we're back to stitching body parts together. So what I'm saying is, stitching parts together is unavoidable. Okay? Cannot be avoided. It's a must. It has to be done. So I'm going to go back to the idea of each part has to be grown on its own. Okay? Look, we took this from, it's become, you know what, you might not understand, you might not comprehend this or believe me, but it has gotten less morbid. Now that we're not using corpses, we're growing parts. But then that takes time. You know what I mean? It's going to be more expensive. So maybe the more high dollar biological assistance, maybe the lab grown ones are more expensive. And if you just wanted to save a little bit, you wanted to penny pinch a little bit, that's when you use the corpse. Who listens to this? I'm willing to argue that if you listen to this, you're just as bonkers as I am. Okay, so the budget biological assistant is still comprised of corpses. And just like organ donation, you know how people can donate their organs? Well, you can donate your body too. And maybe if you donate your body, it's not donated. The Frankenstein Corp actually pays your living descendants for body parts. They would have to go through like an inspection process. Of course, you got to make sure that all the limbs are worth harvesting, the organs, the brain, because the organs it does come back to organ donating, because these biological human assistants, they're gonna need all the all the pieces, all the parts that a standard human does need, right? And then we get back to the maintenance. You gotta feed it, you gotta wash it, it has to use the bathroom, it's gotta sleep. Oh man. And then I guess you gotta teach it to speak and stuff too. I never read the Mary Shelley version of Frankenstein, so I don't really recall. Like I saw like the other variations of the movies and stuff like that, but I don't know, was Frankenstein's monster in like the original book able to speak right away, or did that have to like develop over time? Because in the Boris Karloff film, Frankenstein's monster wasn't capable of speech out the gate, but it did eventually start speaking. So and then does that come from the brain used? Because now if you want, see, now we're getting deep, because if you live in Spain and you want your biological human assistant to speak Spanish, you're gonna have to get a Spanish brain. And then same with Chinese, same with French, same with Korean, English based language, places, regions. It's a big thing, man. So mass production here. So again, what we're coming down to is the mass production of it all. And you're gonna have to end up building a factory where all this is done. You know what I mean? In a single manned laboratory, you're not gonna be able to crank these things out fast. I mean, how long did it take Doctor Frankenstein to make his first initial monster? That's a question. It seemed like he put the Bride of Frankenstein together much quicker, but at the same time, I think she was mostly one person. I don't think there were many parts to her. I think mostly she was comprised of a single individual. So I guess that could be an option. But if you see, okay, so that's going to be a mid-tier. So we have our budget, now we're going to have our mid-tier, and then of course, lab-grown is high-end. So mid-tier is comprised of mostly one person. Maybe you got to replace a finger, maybe you got to replace a knee, a foot, a hip, something minor, okay? So that's going to be mid-tier, mid-range. So Bride of Frankenstein is like the mid-range model. Frankenstein's original monster is the budget. And then we haven't even we haven't touched the lab grown yet. You know, we didn't make it that far. Things fell apart at the mid-range tier for Doctor Frankenstein. But anyway, you're gonna have to have a factory where all this is done. You're gonna have to have a sole factory for the budget ones. You're gonna have a sole factory for the mid tier, and then you're gonna have a factory for the lab grown to make mass production here. You know what I mean? Excuse me. That was more of a hiccup than anything else. It's like an iPhone, you know? It took a lot of time, I'm sure, to make a singular iPhone, but then everybody wanted one, so now they gotta crank them out in factories. And that comes full circle to where all this came about. I started thinking about who would work there. Because it's not, you know, even in factories where a lot of it is machinery making everything, there are still people who have to work there. There's a human element to every factory ever, right? It's kind of a guess on my part, but it makes the most sense. How many factories out there are just like fully, you know, like artificially run? That doesn't sound right. Automatons ran by automatonic. I don't think that's a word, but it is now. An automatonic factory. Okay, so Frankenstein factories are not automatonic. There is a human component to every Frankenstein factory. Now, imagine that was your job. Imagine you had to work. Somebody's gonna have to work there. Why not you? Why not me? Why not we? Somebody's got to work in the Frankenstein factory. And I can't imagine that's a great job. Even all the way up to like the lab grown level, I don't think that's somewhere that it's a happy place to be. You're just surrounded by body parts. At least in the lab grown, there's no like weird kind of, you know, underlying sadness to it. But then the mid-tier and the budget Frankenstein factories, now there is some tragedy there. That is a source of, you know where the parts came from. You know, people, these parts were mourned over. And that's sad. It's tragic. You know, I am no stranger to loss. You know, losing somebody after they pass is a very saddening thing. So if you're working in one of these factories, that element is always going to be there. It's going to be sad. What if you work there and then, you know, you have an uncle that passed, or an aunt, or a distant cousin, and they were like, you know, I want my family, my descendants to be well taken care of, so I'm going to sell my body to the Frankenstein factory after I pass, and they're going to get a good chunk of change, and they're going to be able to go to college, buy a house, do whatever it is that they can do. This is so messed up. This is so messed up. But this is where my head goes. This is the wheels are turning. The wheels are turning. But if I sold myself to the Frankenstein factory, would these thoughts go into whatever biological human assistant, you know, that my brain was utilized for? Would that Frankenstein monster think like this if it had my brain? I think my brain would go for a pretty penny. But yeah, what a tragic line of work. And all of this, this whole thing was, you know, to a degree, I didn't get this deep into it, but I did have the thought of, you know, what if Doctor Frankenstein's endeavor turned successful and we ended up having to mass produce. And then you had to work there. You had to work at the Frankenstein Factory. And, factory jobs are rough. Even the factory jobs that aren't making biological human assistance. It's hard labor. It's a rough way to make a living. And then you throw in the whole, crafting corpses into the mix, and it just makes things even more challenging. So naturally, this idea, I thought, what better way to express this thought that I'm having than putting it to song. And that's exactly what I did. Crafted the lyrics. And of course it has to be like a country ballad, right? It has to be a country ballad. What other song would work? What other genre would work? You can't make a hardcore song about this. Maybe you could, but the emotional resonance to the psychology of working in a Frankenstein factory has to be like blue collar, just country, and not one of these like upbeat pop country kind of like, got my beer, got my whiskey, got my woman, got my truck, that kind of thing. No, it's not one of those. It's like Johnny Cash kind of vibe, but not Folsom Prison or Ring of Fire Johnny Cash. Like, this is later. It's not that era of Johnny Cash. This is like 1960s, kind of the hard, sad country. And that's what happened. That's where it went. That's what it became. And it was a song that I had put together some time ago when I originally had this thought. And then tonight, playing with the software I use to do the AI music, I remixed the original song, my original country ballad, Frankenstein Factory. And I was like, man, this is fun. This is great. It's never going to go anywhere. And it would be a shame for it to like not have some sort of home. It may never be put on streaming platforms, but it has to live somewhere. It can't just go to waste. So here we are. I hope you enjoy it. I enjoy it. It's a tragic country ballad. And here it is. Frankenstein Factory. Well, hold on. You know the whole gist. Go to leallegacy.com, okay? That's as promo-y as I'm going to get. Everything is over at leallegacy.com, okay? There you go. Go there. Go do that. leallegacy.com for more. I'm going to do, this is going to be a reoccurring thing because I do a lot of these songs. I do a lot of these random songs that will never go anywhere else. But podcasts. But maybe if there's a reception and some solid feedback and you want this on your Spotify playlist, let me know. Let me know in some sort of format, comments, social media, email, whatever. Text me if we have that kind of relationship and let me know. And if I get enough interest, I'll put it on a streaming platform and you can add it to a playlist or whatever. But if not, it'll at least live on here. So I hope you enjoy it. This is Frankenstein Factory.
Another day, another dime, clocking in, I'm right on time. In the shadows of the smokestacks, where the iron meets the spine, we piece together bodies in this cold assembly line. But there ain't no life worth living when you're stitching up the blind. In the Frankenstein Factory, where the dead come to life, but the heart of the worker gets buried by the knife. We build them up strong with bolts and wire and sin, but the soul of the maker is where the darkness begins. I used to dream of daylight, now I only see the gray. In the stitches and the metal, where the bodies lay, we breathe life into monsters while ours slips away. In this endless repetition, where the living learn to stay. In the Frankenstein Factory, where the dead come to life, but the heart of the worker gets buried by the knife. We build them up strong with bolts and wire and sin, but the soul of the maker is where the darkness begins. Runs deep within my veins, but every piece I hammer, every bolt I strain, feels like a nail in the coffin of a man who's gone insane. In the Frankenstein Factory, where the dead come to life, but the heart of the worker gets buried by the knife. We build them up strong with bolts and wire and sin, but the soul of the maker's where the darkness begins. Another day, another dime, as the smoke fills the sky. In the Frankenstein Factory, where the living come to die.